welcome Will Dendy, formerly or presently known as El Bandito. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, good. Cheers, Al, and you?
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. For those that are watching, you've been like a integral part of Karting1 since the early days, and we've done a few adventures and that kind of stuff. Um, so, what are you up to nowadays? Because like I know you're doing your sim stuff a bit more. What's that all about?
Yeah,
When you
so
coming back to karting?
yeah, a lot of sim stuff. I'm going to be doing some Club 100 this year actually with Anwar Beryl Smith and a guy Matt. Going to be doing some of the endurance stuff. I've not done karting in years. I think the last time I did was with Jack on one of his test days. I think just after they'd made the new PF track, they didn't have the barriers under the bridge and that. So yeah, that's how long ago it was. Getting a bit too old for karting now. I think this year, every year I've been doing the Will Dendy Memorial Trophy, which is like 20 lads. I hope Wilton Mill aren't watching this, but firing each other. We've had some great drivers.
Yeah, because I'm waiting for the day where it's like the Will Dendy Memorial Trophy, and everyone turns up going, "Oh, it's such I can't believe he's gone," and you're like, "No, no, I'm organising it."
Yeah. People have said like, "What? Why is it called the Memorial Trophy? You're not dead." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is kind of the joke." But this year I'm going to get some lads from the simulator team along. Yeah, like it's full of great drivers. It's always amazing. Like 20 of us get together. We have a great race. Really good, and then we go for a bite to eat after, and it's just what karting should be about. I think. Like it's really changed from when you and I started. I mean, I met you in what 2005, and I think we could see it getting more and more serious even during that time.
I think like the one of the main reasons I think like, I wanted you on is because in my view, like you're the kind of kart driver that we want to have in the sport, right? Because you're a top end driver, right? For those that are watching who may be unfamiliar with Will, like you're a top end driver, you're one of the best drivers I know, but in a sense, like you've found more of a home, I guess, in sim racing than you were that was available to you in kart racing. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Like, it was a real struggle for me to get into karting. I saved up £2.50 an hour working at my local kart track and saved up for like a year to get my kart. Then, I remember going to Wilton Mill and I threw a chain and I went over to Richard at Spellfame and I said, "Yeah, Richard, like I've thrown the chain. How much is it for a new one?" It was like £18. And I remember just going, "Oh, no. Oh, because I completely paid for myself. I didn't have any money. I used to cycle to the track carrying my engine like 13 miles, and then Richard felt sorry for me, so he used to like drive me home in his truck after the test day and that. And I managed to save up money, get a better job, like find ways to make money, like mechanicking, and yeah, I got a decent job in the end and managed to fund a bit more of a budget. But then I've been singing the praises of sim racing since I think 2004, 2005. And I think that's where I've more found a home. I lived in Sweden for a few years, so I didn't have a rig. And now I've got a rig. I'm with a brilliant sim team. We've got some amazing drivers, some quite famous drivers there. And like I've had to step up my game. Simming's a different craft to karting, I'd say. Like it's quite counterintuitive karting. And I think that sim drivers maybe haven't got the same levels of aggression that you kind of need to have in karting. Otherwise, you get fired off. Starts, for example, if you don't go in hard on a start in karting, you're going to get fired off. So I go in hard on a start in sim racing, and everyone's braking really early, and so that, you end up going into the back of people. It's like really strange.
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't like about sim racing. Like, because I've been in and out of it, is like what I like about kart racing is it doesn't tend to be like a whole like when you have a start in car in a sim race and it's a bit of a crash. There's like people write essays about it, and there's 100 camera angles, And with
Yeah,
karting,
yeah,
it's a bit like, yeah, let's get on with it.
yeah, yeah,
You've on your head, like,
yeah,
you just get on with it, and that's kind of that. But like, the thing is, you didn't just do like a bit of Club 100 and then you actually raced like in KF at the British Championship level. Like, it wasn't like you've just come in and done a bit of like you fully committed to doing as hard. And like, this is the mad thing. So it's hard to sort of tell the story, but like throughout us knowing each other, it's been very much, especially in the early days, it was like, who's this guy? And then it was like, you're doing clubbies, and then it's like, go and do Super 1. And then I remember the time it was like end of your sort of Super 1 career in TKM, and you were thinking, what am I doing with my life? And then I say, I don't know if it was me that said it. I don't like taking the credit. I said, why don't you do it in KF?
it was.
This was like in 2009, like when it all like it exploded in terms of costs.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, and everyone's like, oh my God, it's impossible. It's too expensive. And like, there's, how old are you in 2009?
22, 21, I think, actually. Yeah, 21.
So you're 21, you're trying to make your way in the world. You haven't got any sponsors. You're not funded by parents. And it's like, oh yeah, just spend all your money on this. Which you did do.
Yeah.
But like, I think that was valuable though. It was a valuable thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was great to be in it. And, you know, I got a lot of help from, as I say, Richard from Spell fame. I got a lot of help from Roel Van Es. You know, Will Van Es, his son was the British TKM champion. I got a lot of help from Bob Astill, Paul Fletcher. Like, everyone really helped. And I remember I started off, you know, I got a chassis called VRK. Luckily, I got it for free, but it was a gearbox kart, and it was well, not really suited to UK circuits. And then, you know, I tried out Maranello and RS8. That was better. So thanks to Bob for supplying me that. And then I eventually was like, you know what? Everyone's on a Tony kart. I'm going to rent a Tony kart from Dave Litchfield. So I did that. I got a GFR engine that everyone else was on. I remember it was one of Johnny Walker's cast-offs.
It wasn't quite for the story, for the full picture, because this is like you've gone to like through the learning process, because you did like it was about 4 or 5 rounds, and like so you started at Shennington, then it was Rowra, and then Wilton, and then Larkhall, which was the last round you did, and it was very much Sunday morning. It was like you were like, screw it, I'm going to get a TM, just get one with Gordy, doesn't really matter.
yeah. And all of a sudden, I was absolutely rapid, wasn't I? I think, I was up in like, you know, 4th from quite far back on the grid. Like, I think I was half a tenth off, was it Mark Litchfield or Jordan Lennox Lamb that won it? But I remember my engines used to be so bad that it was actually a bit of an advantage. I don't know if you remember, Al. I came out of B at Wilton Mill, Oblivion. Johnny Walker passed me up the straight, got so far ahead of me that he pulled back in and I lunged him back. Whereas, you know, if my engines were better, he would have got beside me. So it was actually a bit of an advantage having such a bad engine.
Yeah, it's like you're coming in going, I need less power because I want them to overtake me before I get to the corner. So
then I can lunge them back. Yeah.
That was proper though, wasn't it? Because like, I remember watching that race and it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Because there's nothing funnier than... Because I think like that year you could have had, given all the equipment, you could have won a race or 2, right? But your gear was not there. But there's nothing better than watching someone who is such a, like, it's a comical disadvantage going.
Yeah.
I could just see the thought pattern of you going up the straight going, I'm going to do you, Johnny. Come rain or shine, I'm going inside. And that was it. Like every lap, that was hilarious. And like Jamie Rush was behind, watching everything, and it was like I was like he's just got the best education he's ever had in his life. But that was kind of a weird experience, that, because we don't really hit. So like that was kind of the last end of the era of people looking at the British Championship as like a thing that was worth going after, because the grids then were like 10 or 12. And you seem to have the bravery to go, I'm not going to do road tax or whatever, I'm going to go in at the deep end. Like, there's something cool about that.
I think what it was that, you know, I started off in TKM Super 1. Like, I think I wrote on the commentary form, best achievement in racing. And I came 7th in a clubby once, because I was shit in clubbies. Like, I was terrible. And then I went to Super 1 and like against better rivals, I was actually, quite good. I struggled a bit at Rowra, but by the I got seeded number 12 in my first year, even though I missed a round. By the next year, I think I got pole position in Super One and the TKM Festival like 3 times in a row. And the races were going really well. I had good support and good kit. And I thought, I've not got much money and I want to be learning more. I don't see the point in winning. I want to be like out of my depth. So that's why I made like quite a big jump and I learned a hell of a lot that year. I think I only did about 20 meetings or something. But each meeting you had to work on something and improve something, like really analyze in depth what had gone wrong and, take every opportunity. I remember learning how to overtake was actually from you, Al, in 2005 when we were on the small track at Wilton Mill, seeing you go in so hard and committed. I was like, oh, okay. So, you put your car next to someone and then they see that you're there and they don't turn in, they don't crash into you, like that. You don't just put your car there and then, you crash. So it was a good education. Yeah.
I think that was interesting because like your first Super One, which was in TKM, it was Wilton Mill, wasn't it? And you entered.
Yeah.
And I was mechanicking and I didn't really have a clue what I was doing because I'm not really a mechanic. And you had a problem where like the kingpins were coming loose, right? For some reason, I can't remember why. So every time you were going out, it was like, I hope his kingpin doesn't just come out. But you ended up finishing 6th or 7th.
Yeah, 6th. I came from 18th on the grid, and I mean there was 50 people.
I remember on the grid you were like, Alan, I'm happy just to be here, mate. In the A final, we're like, yeah, this is mint. And then I think you were second quickest.
Yeah,
half a tenth off fastest lap. I think Ryan Cole was fastest lap, and that was like it was good for me personally because I was going. I know Will's a good driver, and it was like confirmation that I knew what I was seeing wasn't just kind of me going, he's a mate and I hope he does well. There was like something underneath that because like people didn't really understand or appreciate the sort of lack of testing that you had. Your equipment you weren't like, I remember, I think you were on a borrow, like I think Richard lent you the carb from Spellframe, if I recall correctly. I don't think your engine was anything that special. And we would kind of joke about quite a lot. And I think people were a bit off put by a bit. And like I remember walking around the paddock after, and everyone's like, "Well done, Will," and they didn't really expect it. But to me, it was obvious because I could see that your skill level was there.
I think I really think that having that poor equipment for such a long time makes you learn everything and improve yourself as much as you can. Like fitness wise, I ran marathons to try and get fitter. I would go out in the wet on slicks because I couldn't afford wet tires at that time. Like driving along with a bad engine, you learn to maximize the exit of corners. And I think having bad kit and then going to good kit, it just makes it so much easier. It's like, I guess if you're, training with a coat and a 50 kilo weight on your back, the second that you have running shoes and, gym shorts, you'll be absolutely flying. I kind of feel it was the same thing. I think it's like, we did a lot of articles in Karting1 at the time about simulators and learning how to maximize the utility of each part of your budget. So I remember saying, like, if you've got £300, spend it on a day's driver coaching. Don't just rent an engine for a day or something like that, So I think there's a value in running on poor equipment. And when you look at drivers like Danny Curl and, some of the best drivers didn't actually have good kit until later on. I think it really helps to up your game. So then all of a sudden, you're like, bam, when you do get a good engine or good chassis.
But I think there was something a little bit different because I don't think it was like, for you, there was a determination to do it. Like I think we discussed earlier, like you were saying, earning $250 an hour. Like I don't know many people that are going to be on that. I mean, probably illegal nowadays. But I don't know many people would go through that kind of stress to go karting. I'm not even sure if the opportunity's there for them now. Because I think you go to a track nowadays, and the IKR thing does help a lot, especially with the clubs like Strubby and that. But like the determination that you need, means that when you were on the rubbish gear, actually from your perspective, you were there doing it. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
weren't
yeah,
necessarily on rubbish gear. You were just like, I can't believe I'm even here.
yeah, yeah. When I think about how far that we've come, and yeah, it's pretty incredible. Like, you know, I won that talent competition with Pirelli and found myself driving a GT car, an Aston Martin GT car, and now I'm on the simulator with an amazing team, like amazing drivers. Um, Jensen Button is part of our team, Al Buncombe, Harry Tinknell, amazing people. And I just think, it was a lot of hard work, but it was worth it, really. Um, and yeah, I definitely wouldn't trade it. I definitely wouldn't trade it. I mean, it was incredibly hard, like, but I think it kind of strengthens your personality. And yeah, I think Club 100 is a great thing, though. I like, anyone watching, I think go and do Club 100, because the standard of driving there is like you've got beginners and then you've got people that are like incredible. You know, you just have guys like Nicky Richardson walking around chatting with people, following him on track. I mean, this guy's got the respect of like Lewis Hamilton and, many Formula One drivers. So people like that just kicking around. I think it's like you were saying earlier about Danny Curl walking around in clubbies. Like, it's incredible how close you can get to people that are amazing and, speak to them, learn from them. Yeah.
Well, that's the kind of thing, like, see what I repeat. Like, I sometimes feel like karting has failed. With you in particular, because I know you and that, and I know your story, and people probably don't. Because I guess there's a... Because obviously you did the British Championship and you went like at full pelt at that, but people aren't going to know your story all that much. And it's kind of like that year I thought, and that sort of evolved. I was like, it's karting, it does sort of fails drivers in the sense, because we don't seem to have reverence for good drivers. So the opportunities aren't there for you to make a career in karting or get opportunities out of karting, because once you've done KF, what was there for you? So say you won a race or whatever. What was there for you after that? There wasn't a career as a KF driver. There's not a career as an international driver unless you're willing to sort of spend the money or get a, like some people do make it. Like Danny Curl is a good example, because of Jade picked him up and helped him. But like, that's what I feel. I don't know what you feel like. Because you invested quite a lot in kart racing, really, and you got something out of it personally. But
yeah,
materially, like you invested in doing KF, but you didn't. I didn't see the return for someone like you from the sport. Does that kind of make sense?
I guess so. But I mean, like, I kind of looked at it as a bit of a challenge. I loved doing it. I made a hell of a lot of friends. We had an amazing time. I don't know, Al, if you want to put up here, maybe both, I'm making you some editing work here. The picture of us sitting on my car at Shenington when Paul Carr pranked me and put my car on that ledge. Yeah, yeah. Things like that are just timeless memories. And I think it kind of gave me something to work towards. I became a diplomat to fund karting. I worked in a packing place when I started karting, and I finished as a diplomat. So I think that whilst there isn't a financial return, and there's plenty of drivers that are really bitter about having not made it and everything, I'm fairly sure that if I'd stuck around longer, then maybe I could have been picked up by a works team, or at least got a free drive, because that's what happened in TKM. I got so much help. I didn't have to pay much each race at all. There are opportunities, I think, but I think people should really look at karting as its own thing and enjoy it for what it is and maximize. For me, I'm incredibly competitive, and like people, I guess, like when we did that race at Simply Race, we try our hardest and we get really annoyed if the rules aren't followed in that. But for me, that's the fun of it, is trying my best and learning something. And I think people should look at karting as that, whether you're winning or whether you're 15th, as long as you know that you're performing the best you can and having fun and like building relationships. I think that's all the return you need, to be honest. I wonder if like Lance Stroll has earned back the money that his dad has spent. I probably doubt it.
No,
You know,
definitely not. No,
like
no.
so yeah, I think it's a like end to the means to an end. I don't know the way
Yeah,
around, but you know what I mean. It's an end
yeah,
in itself.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I'm
It
trying
was
to
it was a
say.
good story, like, and it was just it was just for me. It was a it was a kind of interesting era for the sport, I guess, because I think you were sort of at the end of the. I did the British Championship in 2011 in KF, but I think by then it was already kind of it just it was already on its way out. But that year that you did it, you had Foster Jones, Ben Cooper, Litchfield, and like obviously what happened at fullback because you didn't do the last round, which was this mad thing, which we got to watch that, and I don't think there's been a better kart race that I've ever watched.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
incredible.
for those that don't know,
Yeah.
basically what happened was it was getting late. A team protested because if they protested, then the race would have had to be called off because it was getting dark. So the officials just went, "No, you all go in. Screw the protest." And they sent everybody, and it was getting dark. Which at fullback, there's no floodlights. It's basically an old airfield, and the racing was intense. It was getting dark, so the atmosphere was like, "What's going on?"
You can see the sparks coming off the car.
It was
Couldn't you?
amazing, and that it kind of was like that felt like a bit of an end of an era in terms of elite karting, if that made sense. And it was kind of cool that you'd managed to be part of that era. Like, I don't know if you really felt that, but looking back, that's what it felt like.
I think it's insane. You know, the level of karting even now is amazing. You know, I think in KF1 that year was like, or KF1 maybe the year after was Ben Barnacote, and you know people that have really made it now. I mean, in KF3 you had Alex Albon and Jade Dennis going round, and it was looking back you realise how amazing it was. At the time, you know, you just focused on your own thing, but um, yeah, I guess I always say to people, I think you've alluded to this in some of the previous episodes, like I always say the higher up you go in motorsport, the easier it gets, like other than Formula One,
Man!
because the talent, yeah. I suppose, you know, like in karting, you make a mistake and probably three people are going to come past. In Formula One, if you make a mistake, if you're, you know, in a Mercedes or something, yeah, you know, you might lose a place. But I guess it's a
It's a
different
different.
kind of
I think
competition. But
it's a different
you
kind
know,
of competition, but I think the overall arching theme is correct. Like in terms of real racing, like karting is the hardest. It's the most intense. It's the most
yeah,
congested with drivers. Like, um,
and everyone, like, you know, first to 20th is a tenth of a second in qualifying or something. It's like unless you're on your A game, you're right
yeah,
at the
yeah.
back, aren't you? It's
And
insane.
that's what I think is kind of good about it. I just think we like. I think I use you as a platform in my head to go, what could be done? If we had our time again, would it have been good to have more video, more sort of logging everything and pushing it? Because I see a lot of this motocross and
Yeah,
supercross
yeah.
stuff now, which I'm really into, and I'm like, there's so many cool stories and cool videos. Like I sent you one like Sleigh Park or something from Monster Energy, and I just think, man, we could have we were doing some cool stuff. Even like we went to Las Vegas together to watch the Supernats when,
Michael
yeah.
Schumacher.
And I
Yeah.
just think back, if we'd vlogged
I
that
mean,
then, and obviously we got, I think we got into a bit of trouble, didn't we? Like I don't want to say too much, but I was basically so wimpish about everything. Like I was so because it was my first time going abroad in that kind of context, and yeah, but like the stuff that you get up to, you think now people would tune into that. You'd be like, wicked, 100,000 views, happy days. And at the time, you're sort of just doing it. So like, you getting mistaken for Vettel was quite funny. There's a story basically.
yeah.
We're in the paddock, and so there was a rumor that Vettel was there, and people for some reason you got mistaken. Some of America thought you were Vettel. Started talking to us about the trophy,
No,
didn't he, or
he
something?
came.
I can't.
He came up to me and he said, "Oh, my son's really good. I could do with some of that Red Bull money." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, great, okay." And then he came over to me again a bit later and he said, "Is that your trophy from Abu Dhabi?" And I was like, because the thing is, I'd said to you, "Oh, Al, apparently Vettel's here." I didn't realize, because back then I did actually look a lot like him. And I guess they got our accent confused because I sound very German. But yeah, I mean, you're so right about the about like the videos we could have made. I remember, I had that prank war with Paul Carr, which ended up in him putting my car on that bank. The picture's here. Yeah. Here's the picture. Just making some editing work out. But like in the evening, I went in his awning and cable tied all of the carts to the trolleys, and I felt really bad because the next day they were really late for the heat. This was TKM Festival, and I'm seeing everyone run to the grid and lifting their cart up with the trolley stuck to it. I was just crying, laughing.
Oh god, that's class.
I can't remember what else.
God.
What are the pranks we did? I think we stuck like SRS Racing stickers on Paul Carr's back, and it was just amazing that we drove around Rowra in the evening with.
Oh, I'd have died. I think I would have died.
It was brilliant. He was so angry.
Oh my god.
Driving around with someone that eventually drove in GP2 and did really well. Actually, I think he tested Formula One. Like, we drove around Rowra with chairs on top of my car roof. Drove around in the.
But was that the car? Was that the car? The red Astra estate. The dream machine.
The one. That many memories there. My mechanic and I, Elliot, had many adventures. But yeah, I do think like if we could have blogged or whatever back then, it would have been brilliant. I remember at the time, like, people kind of looked down on us a bit because we weren't all that serious. Whereas now, I think it's become a real fashion to like
knob about a bit,
kind of have a bit of fun and make. Yeah, exactly. So I think we were, it's a bit of a shame that we couldn't have done.
I guess it probably wouldn't have happened though, would it?
Videos or whatever.
I guess you don't have those ideas sometimes when there's a camera there. Yeah, you don't think cable tying the carts to the stands. Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah.
I just imagine Paul Carr going, "Get the clippers. Where the clippers, man?"
He was really angry. I had to stay out of his way for quite a while after that. But yeah, like it was, like fun stuff. I remember Shennington, my engine fell off because I wasn't the best mechanic. My engine fell off when I was driving around. I don't know if you.
Well, you're the opposite to me because I would over tighten stuff and you would under tighten.
I didn't want to strip any threads.
So it's so petrified. I've never known someone to be on such a tight budget that they're petrified of stripping a thread. It's like, but there was a time I remember that. Was it Shennington when you tried to do a Dave Sarah lockup, and it had so much grip you just ended up cutting the corner right across the glass?
Yeah. And Alex Album was next to you, wasn't he? And he said, "Oh, what's Dendy doing, the dickhead?" So that's my claim to fame, being called a dickhead by Alex.
Yeah, it's good, but it I don't know. I'd love to see more young drivers just like they do it. That they do it, but it's like if they could film it and give us something to watch, because I think it would be quite good. Because I think some of the drivers are quite funny and they do stupid stuff, but it kind of because I think karting as a culture is quite fun. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many characters. Like, we still joke about, and have memories of Mark Rose and Richard Bradley. Because for those that don't know, like, obviously you might know Richard Bradley from LMP2, but him and Mark Rose, it's comedy.
He's an absolute character, isn't he? I remember standing on the drivers' parade with Bradley. I mean, this guy later went on to win LMP2 at Le Mans, and. He's amazing, awesome, and he was like going all on about trains and how passionate he was about steam engines. And I was like, we're standing here at the British Championships, and you're like wishing you were over there, train spotting.
Because you think like, is he joking? It's like, no, he's not joking. That's really what he loves. It's just cool. It's so cool. Some of the stuff. That those two were a pair, weren't they? That was a good
Yeah.
combination, Mark Rose, because he's never not got something to say about something. Yeah. So what's the future, man? What's like get serious for a moment. Like to me, like I'd like to see you karting again, but I'm not sure the avenue's there for you at the moment, or whether it's something that you'd want to do.
So
Like Club 100, is that way? Because like your sort of kind of happy place is EKL,
Yeah.
like arrive and drive to some degree. That seems to be where you really get something out of it. Because you're freakishly competitive, but equally you want to have fun. Like it's not
I think
either or.
I mean I'm too heavy for karting now. When I did KF1, I'm 6 foot tall and I was 72 kilos and I was still overweight. Now I'm 82 kilos and I'm kind of like normal weight. Back then I was so thin. Um, so I'm kind of too heavy for two-stroke karting. I'd like to do the odd day and I'll have a day's testing with Jack or something. I'd love to do something. I think cars. I'd like to do a bit more cars. I won a talent competition with Pirelli and then did the mini challenge and then got offered the drive in Beechstein Aston Martin GT4. But it's money, isn't it? Really, I think simulators is where I'm going to be focusing. Well, definitely while lockdown's on, but doing simulators. I'm in Zancho, that amazing team, and there's quite a lot of leagues coming up, and it really improves your consistency, accuracy. Thinking about things is vitally important. Keeping control of temperatures and that kind of boring stuff is really important. I'll do some Club 100. But yeah, I mean, it's just difficult, isn't it? Really, when you don't have the money to do something. Yeah,
Yeah, I would. It would be nice. Like I always think to try and like, how do you? Because at the end of the day, you're in your 30s now, and it's like 20
early
to
30s.
30-year-old seniors. You're in your 30s, mate. You're getting on. You're like me, halfway to 60. But like, I kind of think that's a market that we've lost touch with heavily. And like to me, I remember growing up and you'd see guys like us race, 100 National or Gearbox Karting or whatever. And now you don't see those sort of people so much. So is it that karting, we were just lucky to have the monopoly, and now we've got sims and stuff. And like, I don't know. It's just one of those questions where I'm always trying to think: how does karting change? Can it change? Can it be more attractive to guys your age? You're not poor, so you're on a reasonable income, but it's not for you. Like that makes me think: what can we do better? Even if you're not looking at doing karting, what can it be done better? Do you think?
I think. I guess it's a difficult one. I don't think now that what with all of the equipment that you need and everything that you can just turn up with your car on top of a car like you could before. I guess it is a lot of money to get into karting for people. To buy the racewear, the helmet, the kart is what 2 or 3K, and that's quite a lot of money for people to outlay. In their 30s. I don't really know. I guess I don't do it because physically I can't. I just don't really fancy the high grip stuff. Like I don't really want to get bounced around. I'm too heavy to do it competitively. That's the problem. If we were doing like 100cc, minimal pods, no water cooled, then yeah, I'm sure the weight limit would be less restrictive for me because I think in TKM I was 78 kilos, 80 kilos, and I was kind of about on the weight limit. Whereas now, I'd have to do Rotax 177 or whatever it's called. So I guess weight limits is one thing.
Yeah, the grip. Like, I guess back in the day you had 100 Britain, and that was on old YBN tyres. So you're on sort of 100cc good engines, but at the same time you're not. Like I find that the high grip stuff. I think it's so. The problem is it's like a weird market. So faster's better. So people prefer the sort of high grip stuff, but actually, does it benefit the sport? I don't really think it does because it's just expense.
I think
it's money because you have to buy
yeah,
more
yeah,
tyres.
and I think I've just thought of another thing that's probably done it is cars. Who wants to turn up to a kart track, put the awning up in the rain, have to mess around getting everything together when you could, say to your mates, oh, I'm going to Silverstone to drive my, Subaru or BMW M3 round for the day for less money. Like, I think that's part of the problem is cars is an attractive thing to do. And it's much like, it looks a bit better on Facebook for older people.
Well, that's kind of the tricky thing. Like, I think, like, I don't think the racing's cheaper, but you've touched upon like track days and stuff, and I think circuits have reverted. Like, they've advertised track day driving a bit more, and I think we probably used to mop up a lot of those people because, like, in the 80s, I don't know if track day culture was really a thing. Like, I don't think car racing's cheap or can compete. But track day in, what is it, $250 a day? Put on some of your special slicks that you've driven to the circuit. You've got them in the boot. You slap them on. I don't think it's better than karting personally, but like you say, if you're at Silverstone and you're taking Instagram photos,
and
that's
you can feel like a driving god. You turn up to a TKM clubby as a 35-year-old. I mean, I'm not 35 yet, but 35. Yeah. You turn up, if you've never done karting before, you're going to be last by a long way. Whereas if you turn up in your car, you can drive around, think you're doing amazing. You can even do a car racing series. You think you're doing amazing because you came second in your class of 3 people. Like, it's much more rewarding and you get a little trophy. Whereas in karting, it's hard. Like, when I started karting, I was last every time. It's really tough. I think that's another thing is people just want to go along and have some fun. They don't want to, have to improve.
That's kind of why I try to promote the sort of budget kart thing. So it's like we're talking more about, like, see, I like karting for its competitiveness, but at the same time, it can be accessible if you frame it right. So I can buy a road tax or whatever, go strubby and go around with a few people, maybe get a trophy, and
true.
It's a laugh. So it is possible, but I guess it's not. It's very difficult to, because people are watching these YouTubers and stuff, and it's like, oh, I'm going track day in the next to their car, and that's what they're getting fed, and I'm trying to combat that, but it's like David versus God. How do I get a presence in that market? I'm not going to compete with these YouTubers. Like, I'm not going to go, it's hard to compete with saying, oh, I'm going to take my old second. No, I mean, what could you get? You could get a car for 20 grand or whatever. And it's like, oh, I'm going track day. And I'm like, come do karting, do it a lot cheaper, but you're at Strubby or whatever. I think
you could buy an MX-5 for £1,000. I guess Jack hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, but it's an MX-5.
But it's still, you learn the driving skills, and you're going around Silverstone. Okay, it takes a long time to get around, but it's a fun car, isn't it? Like, it's got a bit of poke, it's fun. I think Jack hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, but like,
of having people like Super GT or these YouTubers. I mean, how many people want to get into karting after Jimmy Broadbent has been doing a load?
Yeah, I think that's where we just have to get better at making it like a fun culture to be around, and that's why I wanted to sort of do these videos, because I'm like, no, we have this culture, but we don't really. We have this weird problem where the culture can be fun and a laugh and silly and stupid, but what we present is this weirdly professional image that's not really accurate. It's like a tiny percentage of the sport, but really we're just a bunch of idiots racing 2 strokes for the most part, or whatever. That's kind of what it is. But we've got so obsessed with this F1 thing that's what people see, and they don't go, no, we are a bunch of
I think what it needs is people, friendly people. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to carry on if it wasn't for Richard and Terry at Spellfame. Danny Curl was saying that if it wasn't for Jade, he wouldn't be where he was. I think, there's people like
Those are the stories that are worth telling. To me,
even John from JKH, John Hoyle, he really helped me. He gave me a chassis in 2008 after I'd got number 12 in 2007. I remember I bent my axle. I didn't have enough money to get a new one in 2007. I went up to him and he said, "Well, I tell you what, we'll flip a 50p coin. And if it lands on heads, I'll give you an axle. And if it lands on tails, you have to pay for it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, John, thank you. Yeah, that sounds like good, may as well." He flipped it and it landed on tails. And I was like, "Oh, no." Oh, and he said, "I tell you what, we'll try flipping it again." And he flipped it and it came out heads. So he gave me the axle. It's people like that help people get into karting. And then when I earned more money and could afford it, I was there to stay. Whereas, I think that's what it needs, is like a friendly community. I think sim racing has a friendly community that are accessible. And I'm not so sure that karting is quite as friendly. I mean, there's brilliant teams like Jack Dex and...
I think it is friendly, but it's just we're not very good at... just like I said, the stories aren't told, and that's why you're on here. Because you can tell us the stories about, getting help, fun stuff, and that's kind of cool. Whereas most of the time it's like the Channel 4 will turn up once every 5 years and go, "Karting, the road to F1."
Yeah, true.
And it's some dad going, "I spent 100 grand on my son. He's gonna win." And then they do like the little hard luck story, and then it's just like, they just will make us look like a bunch of morons. And it's just like, we let these idiots come in with their TV crews, and they just, you know what they're gonna do? They're just gonna make.
But I tell you what, Al, right? I learned of karting 2 places that made me want to do it, right? The first one was Funhouse. Remember Funhouse with Pat Sharp? When they did the karting at the end,
yes,
I was about 4.
Yeah,
and
I
was
love
like,
that.
I want to do that.
Prizes to be won.
That made me want to do it. And then I think in 97 or 98, 97, 98, I saw... on a Saturday morning, there was that Champions of the Future program. And I remember seeing Lewis Hamilton and I was like, wow, karting looks wicked. I want to do that. So I kind of think that if karting could get some, viewership, I guess TV isn't really a thing anymore, but, other than 2:00 in the morning on Motors TV, I think that'd really help. Like, I saw it there and wanted to do it.
They did make karting look... I think what TV crews do is they understand that karts need to look fast. Karts are kind of hard to film and make them look good. And the TV stations wouldn't be like limited by camera technology and lenses and positioning. Because they'll go, stick it low, stick it near the circuit and make it look good. Whereas now the priority isn't exactly that. It's at least amount of cameras and as much in view as possible, because it's a different... the streaming platforms, it's a different priority. But like if we had that would help. But I've tried so hard to get companies interested. Like it probably needs to be like a grassroots event or something. That you go, right, we're going to make it like a street race and bring people and do it ourselves. And then people go, oh, that's actually pretty cool. Like I was saying to Danny Curl, man, like start your own YouTube channel. Like you're the world champion. Like you're the world champion. You're the British #1. Like wouldn't it be good if you like had this thing that we could all watch? Because then people go, oh, Danny's racing. Let's watch Danny because he's sound, he's fun. Then we're watching Danny then. Yeah. And then that's what helps funnel the interest. Like, that's what I learned from the Supercross stuff. Like, there's two people. There's this guy called AJ Cantizano or something. And he races, and Jeff Walker as well. But this AJ guy races Supercross. So he does the proper Supercross series. And he's a top-class motocross rider, but he's finishing, like, mid-grid. He's a mid-gridder, essentially, at that level.
Yeah,
people are watching. And they'll watch for him. And it's like that.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Like really personalities, one thing, and secondly is like, seeing the vehicles doing things that they don't normally do. Like, I remember, did you see those videos, Al, on my YouTube of when we took the kart into the car park
That was proper. Those were
Yeah,
good
yeah,
days,
like back
mate.
in
You were way ahead of your time. But probably you get people come on now going, well, you shouldn't do that. And I'm one of them. I'm like one of these people that go, well, you shouldn't
But it
drive around a
is
car park
it is the car
nowadays.
park in Sixfields that someone crashed a few weeks ago. I'm
Yeah.
sure that video is viral, isn't it? And guy crashed into a post in the car. It's that car park with my cart going round and like doing slides, and that's the sort of thing that if it was on YouTube about like you know daily dose of internet about a go kart doing something cool. That's the sort of like small
Mm.
little bits of feeding people that karting is cool and fun.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing we need. I think it's not a
Mm.
like you know
Yeah.
easy thing to do, but it's a slow, like gradual process.
A
Yeah,
slow process. Yeah. 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 I think it would work. It just needs, you need the drivers, I guess. Like, I think the drivers, especially some of the good ones, if they understood the opportunity they have to do stuff, maybe they'd be more interested. But I think they've been so polluted with, like, car racing pollutes people, I think, into being a bit over professional. And over professionality to me screams underconfidence in your ability. Because, like, for example, John McGuinness, right? Multiple TT winner, right, at the Isle of Man. There's only a certain amount of people in the world can do what he does, which is even like to ride around the TT competitively. So if John McGuinness turns up to a press conference in his pants, you can't say anything to him because what's he going? Is he going to say, "Well,
yeah,
hire
yeah,
someone
yeah.
else"? You can't, you know. So when this, sometimes I think over professionalism is like a lack of confidence. Like it's saying, "I'm so petrified at annoying the sponsor, I'm replaceable." You know, and I just think these drivers, if they understood that, have a bit of confidence about you're not replaceable, then bang, you've got personalities. And I think in kart racing, we bought into this over professionalism. Maybe you disagree, and I think that kind of it like puts people off doing stuff because they're so scared.
I
I don't
think
know. What do you think?
that was definitely the case. I used to walk around the paddock, eating my breakfast and like joking with people and chatting, and for me that was a way to relax because I used to get quite nervous before the races, before I like developed that like the hard work is done, you're there racing to get the best result. There's yes, you can talk about setup and try and analyze what happened, but you're there to have fun. And I think now, what with like Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo coming through, I think people might understand that it is more about being a personality, marketable person, rather than just when you look at David Coulthard interviews from the early 2000s, is completely monotone, like just says exactly what happened. Like it's so boring. I don't understand why that was the trend back then. So I think it's changed. I mean, I've not seen any karting interviews recently, but I would imagine that it's probably got a bit more human.
I think it's got better, but it's like I just think they don't realise that they could do stuff, and maybe they don't want to. Like, but I just like to see it. Like I just remember like Matt Bell, Lyle, like when they did that interview, and he was from Motors TV back in the day.
Did
he was
him,
like just
left
joking
him.
about in the press conference, and did him, left him, and I just missed that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just got rose tinted glasses, and I don't spend enough time trying to follow karting. But like, it's so difficult a sport to like. I into karting. I don't follow the top level stuff. I suspect you don't follow any of the top level stuff, and it's like there's no stories. There's no stories being told. I'm like, why am I going to watch it? Because I don't care who wins. Like maybe I watch Danny Curl race now and think I interviewed him. I'll keep an eye on him. I hope he does well because I think he's cool. And that's what the whole point of this is. Like,
I think it's a shame that Karting magazine has gone, because that was you could keep up with the world of karting. You'd see the names and what are you pointing at, Al?
There's the Karting magazine.
Oh,
but on my
I couldn't see it. It's just behind your head, isn't it?
So I don't know. Your camera's
there you go.
just behind me.
That's an old school one. Karting magazine was amazing, and I remember I'd buy that every month, and obviously the internet's taken over, and it was not viable anymore. But I think that's partly the reason it's lost. But I think certain karting pages do a good job of, whether it's right or wrong, that they centralize where you can find videos. I think things like Kart Bandit. I mean, does anyone know who runs that yet? but that is brilliant. You know,
I don't know who
it's
runs it.
got personalities in it. The humour's
I guess, yeah. I mean, yeah. I must admit, like, there is, it is there. It is there, but it's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a moaner.
I think
I just feel like
you
there's
just
potential. I think like it is there, but it isn't. We're not. We're not competing with other motorsports at the moment. Like Ricciardo did the video with Button, didn't he? And it's like neither of those two drivers are top level karters at the moment. Jenson Button's a Super A champion in the European Championship, so he is technically. But what I mean by that is that, like, if you watch that, you think Jenson Button, Ricciardo, karting. If Iglesias, Kremers, and Lammers were there, you'd just go, oh, they're just three other drivers.
True.
But they're the top three in the world. Do you know what I mean? Actually, to be fair, Button looked quick. Button looked good in that kart. Like, I was watching it carefully, going, he's been doing a lot of testing. Daniel
he says he does a lot of gearbox, and it is his local track. But you know, he's on the sim all the time. He's he's doing a lot of real life motorsport. So I think he's really keeping in shape and in like in the groove. I mean, when I jump in a car, I struggle a bit now physically because it's very, you've got to be kart fit, haven't you? And you could tell that Daniel Ricciardo was struggling from the same thing. So yeah, I think videos like that help. I guess it's perfectly demonstrated by the fact that we went to watch the World Champs in 2013, didn't we? And Verstappen was racing, Max Verstappen, and made everyone look stupid. I mean, like, he just drove off, didn't he? And what was it? 8 months later, he was testing a Formula One car, and it just shows that the level of these KZ drivers is incredible. But I think that's the thing, isn't it? No one really cares about how good they are. They care about the stories. So I think, yeah, there just needs to be people that, I mean, Jimmy Broadbent isn't the best simmer, but people watch him because he's entertaining. I think that same needs for karting, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's it. But that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because I felt like you have a story, and I think maybe we were just a bit. Had I got what I got now with cameras and that kind of mentality, I think it could have been really good. And their stories are still there to be told by drivers who are doing it today. And I just want them to know that if they try it, people might watch and listen. Like you mentioned, SRS, right? Stuart Zemmelis. So he's now tuning engines, right? And his son's he's restoring old engines, like old 100s and old 125s, and his son's taking these amazing pictures of them, like of him working on it. And I was saying, make a YouTube channel, man. I want to see your old man restoring the engines, because I think I would watch it. Because everybody loves watching restoration videos of old two-strokes. Do you know what I mean? Like, the potential for us is massive, but I don't want to go on too much about it. But
that's the thing. There's a niche for everything, isn't there? Like unboxing video. Okay, like, yeah, they're popular, but there's a niche for everything, isn't there?
There is a niche. If someone can do unboxing videos, we can do something.
Yeah. So I'm sure people will watch it, but I don't really know the answer, Al. I guess there's responsibility with governing bodies to make it accessible. Media and the people themselves help. I think, from a karts manufacturer's perspective, if they were getting a ton of positive views and people watching them, like Husqvarna sponsor Jimmy Broadbent because they get a lot of airtime and he's fun to watch. I think it just needs people like that in karting, really. Yeah, and I think, things like Alpha Live, they really help to expose.
They're helping people going, you can watch my race live.
Yeah, true.
Now. So no matter what you do, you can go, Alpha Live are going to be covering it, you can watch it here. So it's not like you're going, I'm going to be racing this, and there's no way to watch it.
Yeah.
So they give you that. They're giving you this platform. But anyway, Christ, because I'll go on about it for so long to infinity, mate. But we'll call it a day there, and so we can have enough saving reserve to do this another time, mate. So I'd love to have you on it again. But yeah, Will
Yeah.
Dendy, thanks for coming on, mate. And
Cheers, Al.
Good luck. Good luck
Cheers.
this year, racing Club 100.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's good fun. I hope to see you on track, Al. I look for, well, see you at the Will Dendy Memorial.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the last ever Will Dendy Memorial, whatever that means. Yeah, when we're 78, and I'll be like, I'm doing the real one. Thanks for coming on, mate.
See you around, Al.